Hello again, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Today's topic is childcare and its impact on your taxes. So in this case, we're talking not just about childcare expenses, but also about dependent care. So these provisions in tax law are for the care of your children under the age of 13, but also for the care of a disabled spouse or disabled dependent, regardless of their age. Please note that in this presentation today, we're talking about 2022 tax law. It can change. It did change pretty dramatically for 2021, but that was a one-year thing. So just be aware things can change and always consult your tax professional. So most commonly, the expenses that we're talking about here are your daycare expenses, pre-K, before and after school care for school-age kids, day camps for school breaks, nannies and babysitters. These provisions kick in when the care is to allow you to work. So if you and your spouse, if you're married, have earned income like wages or net profit from self-employment income, you could potentially take this credit or this dependent care benefit that we're going to talk about. There are some exceptions if you don't have earned income, but you are a student or you are disabled, you still may be eligible for part of the credit. So there are two different tax provisions for dependent care. One is the dependent care credit, which is a credit that's calculated on the tax return itself. It's based on up to $3,000 in care for one child or $6,000 in care for two or more kids. Yes, I'm aware you blow through that in a month or two. It hasn't been indexed for inflation in a very long time. For most families, this credit is $600 or $1,200, but it can be higher if you're lower income. The other provision is the flexible spending account. So you may have dependent care benefit options through your employer. And that option allows you to set aside pre-tax up to $5,000 for care and then request reimbursement from that flexible spending company. Just know that that one's use it or lose it. Again, that $5,000 goes pretty quickly in childcare. And then also know that if you have two or more dependents, then you may be in the situation where you use that flexible spending account for the first $5,000 and that you still end up using the dependent care credit for another $1,000 worth of care on your tax return. In either case, at tax time, your tax pro needs the name, address, and tax ID number of the caregiver and the total paid per dependent. Even if all of the care was paid for through that flexible spending account, we still have to be able to show the IRS that yes, these funds, these pre-tax funds were indeed used for childcare. So the question comes up some about nannies and babysitters. You have somebody come to your house and watch your kids here and there. If they're doing that for multiple families, they're most likely self-employed, and there isn't any additional tax reporting you need to do. If you want to take the care credit for those expenses, again, you do need to get their name, address, and tax ID number. They may or may not want to give you their social security number, but they should. Nannies are a different thing. If nannies only work for you, or if someone, whether it's a nanny or not, only works for you, then you may be required to treat that nanny as an employee. And with that, for the IRS, that's pretty straightforward. There's a schedule that goes with your personal tax return at tax time that calculates out what that Social Security tax and the Medicare tax is and allows you to just pay that along with your federal tax return, preferably in quarterly estimated payments. But you don't have to do the employment tax filings that you would as a small business. However, Washington State does require that you register as an employer. You don't have to pay labor and industries if there's only one employee, but you do still have to pay Washington State unemployment every quarter and withhold from the employee wages Washington paid family medical leave. And the Washington Cares program will be back here shortly. You'll need to also withhold that from nanny wages and remit that to the state. So because of all of these different filings and deadlines, we highly, highly recommend using a professional service. There are several out there, and we're happy to provide recommendations. But use a service that will calculate the taxes for you correctly, take care of them and remit them for you, and do all of the required filings for you. Let me know if there are any questions, if you have any ideas for other things that we should cover in these weekly videos, and I hope you have a wonderful week. See you next week. Bye.